Chinese Dune Buggy Part 2. For those of you that are not followers to the channel, which according to the analytics is about 90% of you, this is our Chinese Dune Buggy. This thing started life as an 800cc Chinese Dune Buggy. Just like everything else on the channel, I wasn't satisfied with 800 cc's of power. So I did some engine modifications to the original engine, and I probably doubled or close to doubled the horsepower, the output of the original 800cc. We increased the compression. I did, intake mods, exhaust mods, poured and polished the head. We ditched that engine because in reality, that 800cc, number one, the 800cc was a cast iron triple. The weight when I pulled it out of the Dune Buggy was, I think it was about 230 pounds. That was very heavy because it was a iron block 800cc. This now has a Mitsubishi Mirage 1.2 liter. This is also a triple. The physical size is almost identical to the 800 iron block that I pulled out of the Dune Buggy. They manufactured this particular engine, which is a 3A92. I believe they started in 2014, and they are still producing the same 3A92s in the 2020 Mirages, as I understand, with minor changes. Now, the output on these stock, 80 horsepower. Mine, however, is not stock. So, what I've done to this engine so far, modifications, I did the port and polish to this engine. This does have an aluminum head, so it ported and polished very easily. We've got exhaust. The reason why I had to have custom exhaust is because we're running a turbocharger. So this is a turbocharged 1.2 liter Mitsubishi Mirage 3A92. Now, modifications to this engine to make it work in the Dune Buggy. We had to have some kind of external crank sensor. The crank sensors from factory are located internally to these engines. So I had to add an external crank sensor. This is operating with a Megasquirt 3X. All the electronics, all of the fuse blocks and everything are located inside this box. I'm not going to start digging through there. I do have a blow-off valve. That's our intake back over there. Blow-off valve comes through an intercooler. Just a small vehicle intercooler. I think that radiator was out of a Triumph Spitfire. It was perfect size for this Dune Buggy, keeps it nice and cool. This turbocharger is a K03 turbocharger. So it is a Borg Warner. I messed around with some other systems. At one point I had a turbocharged setup with an AMR 500, and that was a completely different torque band. So if you guys want to check that video out, go back a few videos, you'll see our supercharged Dune Buggy. But anyway, I tried to do that with a AMR 500, but it produced a lot of boost at closed throttle, and then the boost dropped down as you opened the throttle. But really, it only ever hit top end, probably 5 psi on the top end. But now we are turbocharged, which means we're making way more boost, more power, it's more efficient. So it's just an overall better system. We had to add our oil drain feed here. I do have my water lines hooked up at this point. You can see this top one here is a water line that comes in, and then the water return goes back underneath the exhaust there. O2 sensor is located in the dump pipe back through there that you can kind of see. I had to build the manifold for this because they do not make any turbo parts available for the 3A92. Not currently. Hopefully they will in the near future. Now, whenever you're going to boost an engine, highly advise that you look at your valve train, obviously your pistons, your conrods, and all of that. The internals of the 3A92 are stock. I would love to have forged pistons. Squirrel! And forged connecting rods, but I do not, because we're not running a high level of boost. The reason we chose this engine is because this whole buggy weighs 1,000 pounds. This engine with transmission weighs 185 pounds. This is an aluminum block engine, so the cooling is more efficient on this engine than it is on an iron block because it is an open block design. Now, the fueling. These are 500cc injectors. I think these injectors are out of a 350 or 370Z Nissan. And the other major modification is that we're running E85. Because it's a high compression boosted application, I am running E85. I have installed larger vents on the valve cover that go to our oil catch can here. It really Doesn't have much blow-by at all. It's a well-built engine. I've had it as much as 12 psi momentarily to the engine, and she's all still in one piece. These are the original head studs, or head bolts. Doesn't use head studs, it uses head bolts. They are spindly, tiny little things. I would have loved to put some larger ones on there, but I couldn't find any, so that's a modification you can make. But if you're running modest boost on your Dodge Attitude, which is the same engine as the Mitsubishi Mirage, or your Mirage, as long as you're keeping that boost, I'm going to say the safe level is about 7 psi. With a good tune, E85, you shouldn't have an issue with stock internals. You shouldn't have an issue with the original head bolts. That's my opinion. If you blow up your engine, don't hold me personally responsible, okay? The Chinese engine that these come with originally made about 26 horsepower. We're now making over 126 horsepower. My turbo calculations with the intercooler, E85, advanced ignition, a mega squirt ECU, which means I can tune this thing up as hard, as hot as I want it, with as much ignition as I want, with about 7.5 psi. The port and polish and all the other mods that have been done, I'm gonna say we're making about 140 to 150 horsepower. I will slap this thing on a dyno to verify what we're actually doing with that. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, you're going to want to subscribe to the channel, so that way when I bring this thing to a dyno, we can see exactly how much power this little boosted Mitsubishi Mirage engine is making. Well, that's the intro. This is the Dune Buggy. It has completely changed from its original stock form. Now, originally, the steering rack was mounted on by U-clips that would have like some rubber gaskets on here that would just kind of clamp this whole thing onto these two posts. The rubber was wearing out and the whole steering rack would actually move from side to side every time you steered it. Oh, the other thing too is that I was getting a pretty severe bump steer. What I did is I just came in here and I actually cut off half of these posts, which means I could move the steering rack back about an inch, inch and a half, and then I also lifted it up higher, and then I welded it straight to the posts and put a cross brace across here. I'm going to clean all this up, grind all that down. That's going to look a lot nicer. It's very functional for what it is. This is not a showroom Polaris or anything like that. So it's an inexpensive project. Also, I do at some point want to replace that with Heim joints. You can see we've got a little bit of slop left in these ball joints here. So that's the final set of Heim joints that I need to put on this. Brakes are mediocre at best. Now that we're pushing as much power as we are, we're definitely gonna need to upgrade the brake system. I have put better rotors on the rear. I don't know if you can see that rotor, but those are upgraded rotors. This is just a motorcycle exhaust. I had to build this downpipe. This is all TIG welded, as well as the turbo manifold all had to be TIG welded. Engine mounts had to be custom made. This is the best the steering has ever been. It's pretty rock solid now that I've got the supporting arm here supporting the whole thing, and it should steer much better. So we're gonna take this thing out. I'm gonna give you guys a demonstration so you can see what this thing can do.
Let the games begin.
That would have been a bad way to start the video. Right now I've got the wastegate set to run about 7 psi. The reason why I did this engine swap is so I could keep the manual foot clutch and H pattern shift. Well, and that foot clutch right there is the reason why I'm morally superior to the racers. That I'm going to say the steering is improved. I'm going to try my best to get a speed run done here for you guys. Alright, sender. I didn't reach the buggy's max, that was my max. I thought I was going to lose my helmet there. One of the screws came out of my visor, and so I've got one screw holding my visor on. It caught the wind at 77 miles an hour. Yeah, 77.6. So this thing is a little bit delayed. I would venture to say I probably hit 80 by the time it was reading 77. But we'll leave that high-speed run for another day, another adventure. This thing gets pretty unstable anything over 70 because, again, these are large wall off-road, you know, quad tires. They're really not meant for those kind of speeds. And just a wee bit too wide for this trail. Okay, I think I know where I am at this point. I think I know where I am. I think we gotta go back. Yeah. Okay. Under power, it wants to pull right, and when you lift, it wants to pull left. Wait a minute. No, we came from up here, didn't we?
Two hours later. Eventually.
My boost line, I don't want to rip that thing out. So, that is the Mirage-powered 1.2-liter turbocharged Dune Buggy from China. Well, technically now only part of it's from China. Frame is from China. Where's Fox Shocks from? There's over 200,000 of you that watched the original Chinese Dune Buggy, and that was when it had the 800cc Chinese turd ski running the thing. Now, we've got 10 times the power. And we're turbocharged, and it makes choo-choo noises. So I hope you guys enjoy the Dune Buggy. I know I do. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because there's some more that we're going to be doing to the Dune Buggy. We're running low boost right now, but that's going to continue to creep up, I have a feeling. Also, if you guys want to pick up a Dirt Gear TV shirt, go over to the About Us tab in YouTube, and there's a link there for the merch site where you can pick up either a standard tee, a comfort tee, or a premium tee. We don't just do Dune Buggy content. This is kind of the main channel content, but I do a lot of tutorials and mechanical type stuff as well. So if you're into any type of motorsports, pretty much if it's got an engine in it, we're doing it on Dirt Gear TV. So if you're not already subscribed, subscribe to the channel now. I'm Rick with Dirt Gear. I'll see you guys next time.